They thought humiliating my family would be fun. They dragged my mom into a public HOA meeting, read out fake violations, laughed at our cheap house, and told us we didn't belong in their neighborhood. I kept my head down, didn't say a word, because when fools get loud, the smart man starts planning. So while they were busy calling us broke, trash, HOA eyesores, I was busy buying something they never expected. Not their homes, not their cars. I bought the building they worked in, their headquarters, and when I walked into their next meeting, holding the deed in my hand, I simply said, "Good news, y'all. You wanted to humiliate my family? Cool. Now you work for me, actually. All of you are fired. If you think that's crazy, wait till you hear how the whole neighborhood flipped upside down after that. Because revenge only hits hard when you hit it back twice as loud. People always say neighborhoods fall apart because of crime, bad schools, or the economy. But the truth is, sometimes the thing that destroys a community is the one group that claims to protect it. The HOA. In my case, the HOA didn't just overstep. They went after the one thing I don't play about. My family had started small. Petty violations. Fake fines. A warning letter here, a threat there. But then they crossed the line you never crossed with me. They dragged my family in front of the entire community and tried to humiliate us just to feel powerful. They mocked our home, laughed at our financial struggles, treated us like we were beneath everyone else. But what they didn't know was this: I built myself from nothing. I know pressure, I know grind, and I know exactly how to turn disrespect into fuel. While they were busy embarrassing my family, I was quietly gathering every receipt, every document, every connection, mapping out a revenge plan so cold, so calculated, it would flip their entire world upside down. This isn't a story about someone getting even. This is a story about taking the whole system that tried to break you and snapping it in half. Because when the HOA tried to humiliate us, they didn't just start a fight, they wrote their own ending. And I made sure they regretted every single word by the end of this story. You'll understand exactly how I walked into their own headquarters, owned the place, and fired every last person who thought they could disrespect my family. This is the kind of revenge people don't come back from. So sit tight, it's about to get wild. The morning everything changed started with a letter taped to my front door, not mailed, not slipped in the box, taped right in the middle, big red marker across the top like they wanted the whole damn street to see it. Final warning, non-compliance. I remember standing there, reading it, while my neighbor across the road pretended to water his plants just so he could stare. He wanted a show. They all did. Inside that letter was a list of violations so ridiculous it felt like a prank. Grass too long, grass too short, window blinds not uniform, trash can visible from the street even though it wasn't, and the best one, aesthetic value of property below neighborhood standards. Translation, they thought my family looked too broke to live there. That afternoon, the HOA president, a tall, smug dude named Carter, came riding down on his golf cart like he owned the block. He didn't even stop fully, just slowed enough to smirk and drop another envelope into my driveway. "Clean up your act, bud," he said, then drove off like he was doing charity work. My wife walked out behind me, holding the last letter they'd sent. Her hands were shaking, not because she was scared, because she was exhausted. We'd come to this neighborhood to give our kids peace. A clean start, a safe place. But these people, they made it their mission to crush that. That same night, the HOA held a community meeting. But let's be real, it was a public roast session. They pulled up a slideshow with pictures of my house circled in red like we were criminals. Carter stood at the front, chest puffed out, acting like he was saving the neighborhood from disaster. "This is what happens when standards slip," he said. People laughed, pointed, whispered. It wasn't a meeting. It was a damn spectacle. My daughter looked up at me with tears in her eyes, asking why they hated us. That hit me harder than anything. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. I just sat there, quiet still, studying every person in that room like I was memorizing targets. Because while they were busy humiliating us in public, they didn't realize they were giving me exactly what I needed. Every comment, every violation, every lie, every witness. They were building my revenge for me, and as the meeting ended, Carter looked at me one last time and said, "If you can't keep up, maybe this isn't the right place for your family." I smiled, not because it was funny, but because in that moment, I decided something that would flip this entire HOA on its head. If they wanted to play with my life, I was going to own theirs. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was stressed, but because I was planning. While the HOA tucked themselves into bed thinking they'd put me in my place, I was sitting at my dining table with my laptop open, pulling public records, digging through board documents, and checking property filings. Carter and his little squad thought I was some clueless dude they could bully. They had no idea that the same broke family they were clowning had been quietly stacking money for years, and that I worked in acquisitions, buying failing businesses, flipping distressed assets, turning people's arrogance into my profit. So while they were laughing at my lawn height, I was uncovering something wild. The entire HOA, the land, the clubhouse, the office space, everything wasn't actually owned by the HOA board. It was leased, which meant it could be purchased. Not easily, not cheaply, but purchase. Abel and the company that currently owned it. They were drowning in debt. Desperate for a way out, they just needed someone bold enough or petty enough to make an offer. So the next morning, while Carter and his friends were patrolling around the street in their golf cart like mall cops, I was sitting in a downtown office building signing NDAs and running numbers. My wife called me mid-meeting, whispering they sent another fine. A big one. I didn't even flinch. I just told her, "Let them send whatever they want. I'm handling it." By afternoon, I had what I needed. A pathway to buy the land beneath their feet. The HOA board had no idea. Their power was basically rented. They were kings of a castle they didn't own, and I was about to become their landlord. Later that day, Carter drove past my house again, slow, smug, staring. He had this little smirk, like he was enjoying himself. He yelled out, "Clock's ticking, buddy." I stood at the edge of my driveway, calm as hell, and said, "Yeah, it is." He thought I meant losing my home, but what I meant was something entirely different. His time running this neighborhood was almost up. He just didn't know it yet. That night, my wife asked me if we should start packing. I shook my head. "We're not going anywhere," I said. "They are." She didn't know the details yet. I didn't want to tell her until everything was locked in, because when I make a move, I don't announce it. I execute it. And while Carter kept mailing fines, printing warnings, talking trash in his HOA group chats, I was quietly moving millions into position, lining up signatures, setting appointments, preparing the kind of revenge that doesn't just clap back, it rewrites the whole scoreboard. And once the paperwork was drafted, once the seller agreed to meet again, once the lawyers started circling the deal, I realized something beautiful. The HOA that tried to embarrass my family was about to be owned by the very man they were trying to push out. The bully was about to become the employee, and he had no damn clue. The next HOA meeting wasn't supposed to be a big deal. Just their usual monthly session where Carter sat at the front like he was president of the United States, acting like every homeowner owed him rent, respect, and loyalty. But that night was different, because everyone in the neighborhood showed up. Packed room. Folding chairs, scraping the floor, people whispering, people annoyed, people fed up, and Carter walked in like he owned oxygen, chest out, clipboard in hand, eyes scanning the room with that same little smirk that made me want to invoice him for existing. He spotted me sitting in the back and raised an eyebrow, like he expected me to stand up and apologize for breathing. Instead, I just nodded, calm, quiet, collected, the way a man looks when he's all ready. One, Carter started the meeting with his usual nonsense. Behavioral guidelines, appearance standards, community integrity. He loved saying big words he didn't understand. Then he slid into his favorite part, public shaming. And lastly, he said, real dramatic, We need to address the repeated violations from Lot 72. Everybody turned to look at me. Carter waited for the attention to land, then continued. This homeowner has ignored fines, warnings, and multiple notices. This kind of disrespect threatens the quality of life we've built here. I swear, dude talked like he built the whole neighborhood with his bare hands. Meanwhile, he couldn't even change a tire. Carter leaned forward. We are proposing an escalated enforcement action unless Lot 72 shows cooperation immediately. A few neighbors shifted uncomfortably. Even they could tell the man was going overboard. But Carter? He kept going. Power made him drunk, and he was taking shots like it was open bar. Before he could finish his little speech, I raised my hand. The whole room froze. Carter blinked like he didn't expect me to speak. Yes, he said, sounding annoyed. I stood up slowly. Calm voice. Steady tone. But every word sharp like a blade. I won't be paying the fines, murmurs. Shocked looks. Carter's face tightened. And why is that? He asked. His voice got that nervous wobble bullies get when they feel the ground shifting because I said you won't be managing the fines, or the rules, or this HOA. For much longer, the room went silent. Carter laughed a little too loud. A threat? He said. Is that what this is? I smiled. Nah, just a heads up. His face turned red. What exactly do you think you're going to do? That was the moment I wanted to say it. To drop the bomb? To tell him everything. But revenge tastes better slow. So I walked toward the front, stopping right in front of him. Leaned in just enough so only he could hear me, and I said, Enjoy the chair while you still can. Then I walked back to my seat like nothing happened. But Carter, he was rattled. For the first time since this whole thing started, the little king of the HOA looked. Scared, he tried to continue the meeting, but his voice was shaky. He kept losing his place. He kept glancing back at me, because even though he didn't know what was coming, he felt it. A storm was building, and it had his name written on it. When the meeting ended, neighbors came up to me. Quiet, cautious, whispering stuff like, Thank you for standing up to them. We're tired of the board too. They've gone too far. And every single one of those whispers just pushed my plan further. This wasn't just about my family anymore. The whole neighborhood wanted change. They just needed someone bold enough to start the fire. And that's when I realized something. Carter wasn't just losing control. He was losing the people, one by one, brick by brick. And by the time he understood how deep this went, by the time he realized what I was really doing, it would be way too late. Man, the day of the hearing, I swear the whole neighborhood felt different. Like the air was heavier. Almost like the HOA knew their little castle was finally going to crumble. When we pulled up, the community center parking lot was packed. Folks who never cared about anything suddenly cared today, because everybody heard the rumors. They heard about the harassment, the illegal fines, the fake broke family emails, and the quiet little paper trail that I'd been building behind the scenes. And when we walked in, oh, they looked sick, Mrs. Karen President. Sat there stiff like someone replaced her spine with a yardstick. Mr. Clipboard Dude wouldn't look us in the eye. And the treasurer? Man looked like he hadn't slept in a week. They knew they were cooked. But I didn't start yelling. I didn't start screaming. No, no, no. I opened my laptop, pulled up every screenshot, every recording, every little piece of dirt they thought nobody would ever find. And when I started reading out loud, you could hear a pin drop. Their own words, their own threats, their own lies, all of it echoing through the room. People in the audience were gasping. Some were whispering, dang, they did all that? Bro, this is wild. This HOA is done. Karen tried to interrupt, talking about, this is taken out of context. It's not what it looks like, ma'am. It looks exactly like what it is. And then the final blow. My lawyer slid a fat folder across the table. Inside it, proof of discrimination, proof of selective enforcement, proof they targeted us based on income. That was the moment everything changed. The room erupted. People started arguing with the board. Someone yelled that they wanted all board members removed. Another said they wanted a full financial audit. A third stood up and said they'd been bullied too, and never had the courage to speak until today. Our story lit the whole neighborhood on fire, and the HOA. They were sitting there looking like kids caught stealing cookies, sweating, stuttering, shaking. Because for the first time ever, they weren't in control, and trust me, what happened next? That's where the real punishment begins. When the HOA board realized the crowd had turned against them, they panicked hard. Karen President kept tapping her pen like she was trying to Morse code her way out of the situation. The treasurer was wiping sweat like he just ran a marathon in church clothes. And Mr. Clipboard? Bro looked ready to faint. The committee finally said, okay, let's take a 10-minute recess. But everybody in that room, KNEW, what that meant. They were scrambling. They rushed into a back office whispering, arguing, damn near fighting each other. You could hear muffled shouting through the thin walls like, you said they wouldn't fight back. This is your fault. We're gonna get sued. You told us they were broke. When they came out, they were pale, shaking, hands trembling like they'd just seen their careers evaporate. And that's when the committee chair stood up and said the words we'd been waiting for. We find that the HOA board acted with bias, improper enforcement, and violated several community regulations. The room exploded. People were cheering. A few older neighbors were clapping like they were at a graduation. Even kids in the back were whispering, bro, this is legendary. But the punishment? Oh, the punishment was deadly. Point 1. Every single fine against us was wiped clean. All of it gone. Deleted. Erased like it never happened. 2. The HOA had to pay back every unnecessary fee, every fake charge, every bogus violation. 3. Mandatory HOA board restructure. Translation. They were getting kicked out. You should have seen Karen's face. Her eyes got wet, not from sadness, but from pure, unfiltered humiliation. 4. Full financial audit announced. As soon as the committee said audit, the treasurer's soul left his body. This man blinked like someone unplugged him from the wall. But the final blow? The one that finished them? The committee said, we recommend the removal of all current board members pending investigation. Bro. That room turned into a barber shop. People were shouting, yes, sir. Pack 'em up. By Karen. Should have minded your business. Meanwhile, we just sat there calm, cool, collected. Because this wasn't luck. This wasn't a miracle. This was revenge with receipts. And as the board members walked out slow, embarrassed, heads down everybody, stared at them like they were walking the world's most shameful runway, Karen tried to glare at us one last time. But even her eyes couldn't hide the truth. We ended her reign. And she knew it. The moment those board members stepped out of that room, it felt like the entire neighborhood exhaled for the first time in years. And oh boy, word spread faster than Wi-Fi. By the time we got home, neighbors were already outside whispering, yo, did you hear? They finally got exposed. Man, that family saved the whole neighborhood. People who never even talked to us before were suddenly waving, smiling, showing love. Because everyone realized we didn't just stand up for ourselves. We blew the whole corrupt system wide open. Meanwhile, the old HOA board, they weren't taking the L. Gracefully. Not even close. Karen started spiraling. She went door to door trying to spin her own story. Talking about they lied. It's all a misunderstanding. They tricked the committee. But here's what she didn't understand. When you run a community through fear, when you bully, intimidate, gossip, and abuse power, the day you fall, nobody shows up to catch you. They just watch. And that's exactly what happened. Most doors didn't even open for her. Some neighbors peeked through blinds like, not today, Satan. One dude even shouted from inside, girl, go home. Your HOA era is over. She walked off like a wet cat. The treasurer lost it even worse as soon as the financial audit began. He quit his day job to focus on the investigation, which really meant he knew the committee was about to find every dollar he mismanaged. Rumor was he'd been pulling little rounding errors for years. And that audit was about to make him famous in the worst way possible. Even his own wife stopped defending him. She told my mom at the mailbox. I told him to stop messing with people. He brought this on himself. Mr. Clipboard disappeared. Like, poof. Gone. Dude stopped walking the neighborhood. Stopped patrolling. Stopped writing petty notes. It was like he packed up the attitude, the rules, the clipboard, and left Earth. Somebody said they saw him leaving the HOA. Office with 2 trash bags and a plant, straight sitcom exit. But while they were falling apart, asterisk, our family, we were leveling up, asterisk, people wanted to talk, to ask questions. To hear how we did it, some neighbors brought homemade cookies. Some offered help with repairs. One older man even saluted my dad and said, "You stood up to them when the rest of us couldn't. Thank you." You became the family folks respected, not out of fear like the HOA used to run things, but out of real gratitude. And the best part, the community committee told my dad, "We'd actually like you to help shape the new HOA structure. We need someone fair, someone honest." My dad didn't give an answer yet, because what they didn't know? We were planning something way bigger than just joining their little board. Something that would make sure Karen, treasurer, clipboard boy, every single one of them, would regret the day they ever thought they could humiliate our family, while the old HOA board crumbled like stale cookies. Our family didn't rush, didn't brag, didn't celebrate too loud. We stayed quiet, because quiet people are dangerous. Quiet people are planning. And trust me, we were planning everything. It all started 2 nights later at our kitchen table. Lights dim, laptops open, documents spread everywhere. My dad looked at us and said, "They think firing them was the end, but that was just the warm-up." My mom nodded calmly. "If we really want to protect this neighborhood, we need to control what comes next." And that's when my dad revealed something insane, something none of us saw coming. He'd been secretly collecting HOA financial reports, meeting transcripts, contract details, property value history, even the internal emails he got from the committee. Every scrap of information the HOA ever touched, he had saved it, because he knew one thing. Asterisk, power isn't loud. Power is documentation. Asterisk. Then he dropped a bombshell on us. This HOA isn't just corrupt, it's also broke. Apparently, the old board had been mismanaging money so badly that the HOA was only months away from bankruptcy. If they collapsed, a developer could swoop in, buy the land cheap, bulldoze everything, and replace the neighborhood with whatever they wanted, meaning all of us could lose our homes. That's when my dad leaned back and said the line that changed everything. "If we want to protect this place, we don't just fight the HOA. We buy it." Me and my mom froze. Buy it. Like, purchase the whole HOA association? My dad smiled slightly and opened a folder labeled Acquisition Strategy. He'd been building the plan for Montes, a legal route, a financial route, a loophole route, a community support route, for angles, for pressure points, for ways to take total control, without ever raising his voice or breaking a rule. Because here's the truth. Nobody tells you. Asterisk, the HOA thinks it has power. But the one who buys the HOA owns the power. Asterisk. My dad explained. If enough homeowners lose trust in the board, they can vote to dissolve it. If the board dissolves, all HOA assets go into liquidation. And when those assets go up for sale, whoever has the money, whoever has the strategy, whoever planned ahead, can own the whole system. My mom whispered, "You mean could actually become the people who run this place?" My dad corrected her. "No, we won't run it. We'll rebuild it. So nobody ever suffers the way we did. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was a mission. Asterisk, a mission to take the HOA's crown, break it apart, and rebuild it into something fair. Asterisk. But to do that, we needed the community on our side. We needed signatures, votes, support, momentum, and most importantly, we needed the neighborhood to trust us. This wasn't just a fight anymore. This was chess. And we were already 10 moves ahead. The next morning, the neighborhood woke up different. Not because the HOA was fired, but because for the first time ever, people felt hope. Word had already spread across the block. The board was gone, and the quiet family they tried to humiliate was now leading the charge to fix the community. But the battle wasn't over. If we wanted the HOA dissolved, if we wanted full ownership, if we wanted real change, we needed 51% of homeowners to sign the petition my dad drafted. Sounds simple? It wasn't. Because the old HOA board had loyalists. The perfect lawn-type folks. The clipboard warriors. The people who lived for petty control. In the moment we stepped outside, they attacked. Not physically, oh no. Worse. They attacked with rumors. Rumor number 1. Don't sign anything. They're trying to take your homes. Rumor number 2. They want to raise your dues to get rich. Rumor number 3. That family is trouble. They're power hungry. We hadn't even knocked on a door yet. And already, the resistance was forming. But what they didn't realize was, we came prepared. My dad divided us up. Mom, handle older residents who hated the old HOA. Me, talk to younger families, renters, stressed parents. Dad, visit the homeowners with the highest voting power. And then, we went door to door, one house, one story, one signature at a time. The first few doors opened easily. People were tired of the HOA's nonsense. They were ready for change. They signed without hesitation. Then we hit the middle of the street, where the HOA loyalists lived, and the war began. Door number 1 slammed shut. No words, no explanation. Door number 2. Why should I trust you? You're the reason the board fell apart. Door number 3. If the HOA dies, this neighborhood will turn into chaos. My dad didn't argue, didn't raise his voice, didn't get emotional. He simply said, chaos is what happens when corrupt people stay in power. Stability is what happens when honest people replace them. Slow, calm, deadly truthful. Even the loyalists didn't know what to say. And slowly, signatures started building.
12, 19, 27, 35. Almost there. But then we reached the house. That changed everything. The house of the former HOA treasurer. He opened the door with the fakest smile alive. Well. If it isn't the little revolutionaries. My mom stayed professional. We're collecting signatures to dissolve the HOA. He cut her off. You think you can run this place? You, the family who couldn't even follow basic rules. My fists clenched. My chest burned. But before I could speak, my dad stepped forward. Calm, collected, cold as ice. You misused community funds. You approved illegal fines. You hid financial reports. And you helped bully this neighborhood into fear. The treasurer froze. My dad handed him a folder. A folder labeled evidence, emails, receipts, signatures, payments to consultants that didn't exist. His face turned ghost white. My dad lowered his voice. So here's your choice. Sign the petition, or I let the entire neighborhood see what you did. Silence. Then a slow, shaky signature. Number 36. We walked off that porch with the momentum of a tidal wave. People were now whispering. Did you hear? The family is exposing HOA corruption. Maybe they should run things. They're fighting for us. Before sunset, we hit 50 signatures. We needed 51. One more. Just one more. The final signature would decide whether the HOA lived or whether we crushed it and rebuilt it from the ground up. And that's when something unexpected happened. Something so powerful. It changed the entire direction of our plan.
We had 50 signatures locked in. 50 households ready to burn the old HOA to the ground and rebuild the neighborhood with fairness, honesty, and respect. Only one signature left. One person. One house. One decision that would decide the future. Of every family on that block, we walked toward the last house, the only home we avoided the entire day. The home of Mr. Davis, a retired veteran, a quiet man, lived alone, didn't trust anyone, never joined block parties, never talked politics, never stayed outside for more than 2 minutes. And most importantly, he hated the HOA. Just as much as he hated change, He was unpredictable. He could be the hero or the wrecking ball. As we walked up his driveway, my stomach felt tight, like the whole street was holding its breath. My dad knocked gently. No answer. He knocked again. Still nothing. Finally, the door creaked open. Just a few inches. Mr. Davis glared at us, like we were interrupting a classified operation. What do you want? My dad kept his voice steady. We're dissolving the HOA. We're at 50 signatures. Yours makes 51. Mr. Davis narrowed his eyes. And who's replacing them? Another pack of power-hungry bullies. Mom stepped forward calmly. No. We want transparency. A fair system. A community council with open meetings. He didn't blink. And do you think you can run that? Dad didn't answer right away. He just nodded once, slow and confident. We're not looking for power. We're looking for peace. Mr. Davis stared at us so long. I swear butterflies were doing backflips in my chest. Finally, he opened the door wider. Come inside. We sat in his living room. Old photographs, medals, folded flags everywhere. He didn't smile, didn't offer water, didn't waste time. Show me the petition? Dad handed it over. Mr. Davis read every line, every detail, every clause. Minutes felt like hours. Then he said something none of us expected. I'll sign it. Under one condition. My dad leaned in. What condition? Mr. Davis pointed at me. Him. He's the one who stands up to them. He's the one I saw picking up trash at midnight. He's the one who defended that kid at the pool last summer. My heart jumped. I want him on the new community council. I froze. Mom teared up. Dad smiled like he already knew this moment was coming. But before I could respond, the door burst open. It was the former HOA president, face red, breathing hard, holding a paper. What do you think you're doing, Davis? You can't sign anything. He pointed at us. They're manipulating you. They're destroying everything we built. Mr. Davis didn't even flinch. Everything you built was corruption. The president snarled, Don't sign it. If you do, I'll sue this entire block into dust. My dad stepped in front of us, calm but deadly sharp. You don't have the money. You don't have the board. And you don't have the power. The moment Mr. Davis signed, we thought everything was done. The battle felt over. The neighborhood felt lighter. For the first time in years, the air didn't carry tension. It carried hope. But we didn't realize something. The ex-HOA president wasn't walking away quietly. While we celebrated, he made one last move. The very next morning, every mailbox on our street had a letter, a thick envelope stamped with his old HOA seal. Inside was a claim that the dissolution was invalid, and that he would be returning as acting president. To restore order, people panicked. Doors slammed. Arguments started. Fear spread like wildfire. He wanted chaos, because chaos was the only way he could stay relevant. But what he didn't know was that I wasn't the same quiet kid he used to boss around. We took the signed petition straight to the county office. Within minutes, the clerk stamped the paperwork. The HOA was officially dissolved. Legally dead? Gone. He couldn't revive it. He couldn't challenge it. He couldn't even appeal it. It was over. But I wanted closure. Real closure. So I walked up to his house. Not angry. Not loud. Just steady. He opened the door with that same smug look he always had. Until he saw the county-certified dissolution document in my hand. He froze. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I told him the truth he had avoided for years. You never ran this neighborhood. You just bullied the people who lived in it. Now your power is gone. Not because we fought harder, but because we worked together. He didn't blink. Didn't breathe. He just stared at the stamp. The final proof that the empire he built on fear had completely collapsed. I placed the paper in his hand and stepped back. You don't have to like us, I said. You don't even have to respect us. But you don't control us anymore. This neighborhood belongs to the people who live here, not the man who tried to own it. He shut the door slowly. No yelling. No threats. No last words. just silence. A silence that sounded a lot like defeat. We walked back home and stood in the middle of our street. The same street where we were once humiliated, fined, and pushed around. Now it felt different. Calmer. Hours. Later that evening, the new community council met for the first time. Every chair was filled. People smiled. Kids ran around without fear of another complaint slip. And for the first time, they looked at me not as a kid, but as someone who helped change everything. My dad leaned over and whispered, "You know what the best revenge is?" I nodded, because I already knew. Revenge isn't loud. Revenge isn't violent. Revenge isn't shouting in someone's face. Revenge is ownership. Revenge is taking back what was stolen. Revenge is rebuilding what someone tried to break. And this time, we didn't just win a fight. We won the entire neighborhood.